Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. Lots to talk about this morning. Some big updates around Erik ten Hag as well as Pochettino. PSG literally giving him away. They don't want him. They think he's rubbish. They want to give him to us for free. Also, Bruno Fernandes, it's just been announced that he has signed a new contract at Manchester United. Where's my mouse gone? There it is. Get rid of that noise in the background. And as well, a third mystery. And we know who it is. A mystery person is the third candidate for the Manchester United job. It's not Luis Enrique. It's not Lopetegui. There is a third person that's been interviewed. And we believe, from rumours this morning, that it's Cristiano Ronaldo as a potential player manager for Manchester United next season. We'll be talking about that as well. Also, a bit of an update on Mason Greenwood, which I think is a bit obvious from yesterday. Basically, there is no update, and a few other bits as well. So I want to start off. There's an article last night from The Telegraph with quite a comprehensive bit of updates around the Ten Hag and the managerial situation. But I just want to start off. Bruno Fernandes has signed the new deal. This is Man United's big news this morning. I wouldn't call it spin. I'd call it, I really don't care. Bruno's one of my favourite players. We are out of the Champions League. We've had a shit season. He's been running around like he should be sponsored by Pampers, because he's been a little baby this season, crying here about everything, crying over spilt milk. And I've got to be honest with you, announcing a new contract the day before we come back, like it's, oh great, this is what we've become, isn't it? They did this a couple of years ago. Remember when they didn't buy anybody in January and they announced a new contract for Martial? It's like a new signing. We haven't sorted the manager out, but we've got Bruno on a new contract. The games they play, they do it on purpose. They do it on purpose. They could have announced this contract. When did Romano say it was done? 5 days ago? No, let's do it on the Friday before we get to the start of before we play Leicester. Give it a bit of a boost for the home game. Make people forget about the managerial thing. You've given a player that's already here a contract we already knew he was going to get. Woohoo! And I like Bruno, I really, really do. But this is not news that's making me go, hey, we're heading in the right direction. He's not going anywhere anyway. You know, Bruno Fernandes already was on a contract until 2025. He was already on a long contract. This contract, oh, Bruno's here to stay. Lock and key. He was already on a long contract. You know what this contract's about? It's about his wages were crap. It's the most irrelevant non-story that they're going to milk massively ever. Because he was already on a long contract. He was just on rubbish wages. This contract was about improving his wages. And what we've actually done is given a player who I believe is 27. So he'll be 28 in September. We've given him a 5-year deal on £250,000 a week. So if Bruno so basically at 31, he'll still have a couple more years left on his contract on 250 grand a week. Is that right? Is that not? I mean, personally, I think Bruno should be on 250 grand a week. But basically, that's what we've done. We've given another player massive wages. And when you compare that to what... Look, is Bruno one of the best players in the world? I think he's got the potential to be that. But look, I think we've spent enough time talking about this. I really, I don't want to talk any more about it. I want to talk about better stuff than a player that was already on a long contract, basically getting a pay rise. Let's move on. Let's talk about this managerial situation. So, in a summary, Ten Hag is still the clear favourite for this job. This was coming out from The Telegraph last night. Ten Hag is the clear favourite for this job. He is the number one target. However, Manchester United are still at pains to say that there will be a second round of interviews and they're not in a rush to make this decision. There are 3 candidates for the job. Erik ten Hag, who is the clear favourite. Pochettino, who PSG are now saying they won't stand in his way. They don't want a fee, and he doesn't need to get permission to speak to other clubs. Oh my God. My interpretation of this is that this is very, very scary, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But there is also a third candidate, which is not Luis Enrique and is not Lopetegui. And we understand from rumours this morning that this is and could well be Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo as player manager next season is rumoured to be the third candidate. It sounds sensational, but is it? Is it? He's 37. He effectively managed Portugal in the Euros final all those years ago. He's clearly a leader. Cristiano Ronaldo player manager for Manchester United. Is it as ridiculous as it sounds? I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Mark, you should shave your head in honour or Ten Hag if we get him for charity, says Adam. I'm not going to go that far. They should just appoint him. Hi, Mark. What did you make of the 5 steps that Gary Neville gave for the Glazers to improve United? Is it about time, says Jack? I mean, look, it's always good when somebody like that speaks about things, but I mean, is it I don't know. I mean, Gary's 50-50, isn't he? Sometimes he talks sense and sometimes I don't think he does. But I think he is spot on with that. Josh McLaughlin, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for joining. And yes, so I just want to move on from this and say that there was a third thing I wanted to say. Yes, so a few bits I want to get into here. So let's dissect this Telegraph article about where we are at the moment. Manchester Evening News are saying that Ajax may want to keep the announcement of Erik ten Hag quiet for a few more weeks because they're in a title race at the moment. So they maybe don't want it to be announced, but it would get leaked anyway. I don't think Man United have made a decision yet. I'm still very sceptical and concerned of Manchester United. And I'll repeat what I said on Twitter last night. If Manchester United appoint Pochettino, this board will never recover from it. It will be the biggest up yours to this fan base in a long time. And I felt the Super League was a big up yours, but I think when you know, and look, there are people who want Pochettino, I'm not disrespecting you, but you've got, if there's an election and Labour win by 90% and you vote Conservative, all right, you want Conservative, but the reality is you've been pounded. If you want Pochettino, the reality is you've been pounded. It's like nearly 90% of United fans want Erik ten Hag. That's the fact. You can't move away from it. If United appoint Pochettino and go off minority opinion compared to the masses, they'll never recover from this. And they will be held accountable when it goes wrong, which it will. So United have got to appoint Erik ten Hag. And if they go with Pochettino, Gary Neville was right the other day when he said, if they appoint Pochettino, even though I agree with it, you get the feeling that the fan base would be disappointed. And that's not a good start for any manager. So United have a very clear decision they need to make here. And if this board think they can ride it out with Pochettino, they've got another thing coming. It will bite them in the backside. They're basically in the last chance. I mean, Richard Arnold is a new CEO. John Murtagh, all right, he's been at the club for a while, but he's only been director of football for a year. Technical director Fletcher's new. Rangnick, we want to be involved. They've got an opportunity to appoint Erik ten Hag and get it right. If they go with Pochettino, that's a decision from the past that the same old people labelled up as something else, that you're just a Poundland Ed Woodward, and it will bite you in the back. There is no second chances anymore. They have to get this appointment right. If they get it right, there's optimism. If they get it wrong, they'll never recover from it. And that's they need to realise that. But in relation to where we are at, there is a rumour coming out, and this is coming from the Telegraph, that there is no fee issue with Ajax. There's no problem with Man United paying the compensation for Ajax. They've got a good relationship. There's no problem with there's no barrier to Manchester United appointing Erik ten Hag. He is the clear favourite at the moment. There is a good relationship with Ajax. Ajax would like to keep him, but if he wants to go, United will deal with Manchester United, and that deal will be done. There's no negotiation issues. Everything will be fine. So there's no issue there. But there are concerns within Manchester United whether Erik ten Hag has got the experience of managing a big club, whereas Pochettino apparently does. Now, I am going to jump all over this, you know I am. Arsene Wenger, Sir Alex Ferguson, never managed a big club before they took on Arsenal and Man United and rebuilt them. Okay, two of the greatest managers there's ever been. Might be a little bit unfair comparing Erik ten Hag to that, but it's still relevant. Jurgen Klopp, never managed in the Premier League before, never really managed a massive club. Dortmund are a big club, but so are Ajax. So there are I almost want to put it like this. We've got to move on from the press and the spin of, yeah, well, the risk with Erik ten Hag is he's not managed a big club before. He's not big experience. Hold on a minute. Ajax have won European Cups. At Ajax, you are expected to win every week. Wonder what club that's meant to be like. Who's won European Cups in the past but is nowhere near them at the moment? Oh, hello, Man United. Whose fans want them to win every week? Oh, hello, Man United. There's more similarities between Ajax and Manchester United than you think. And Erik ten Hag and the demand to play good football and the demand to develop talent and recruit talent and develop it. Oh, that sounds a bit like us as well. There's more similarities with Ajax and Manchester United than there are with PSG. I'm telling you now, PSG is just buy Galacticos, obsession, get the oil in. Ajax are more in tune with Manchester United than PSG are. And yet, people want to sell this story that, oh, it's all about experience. He hasn't got big club experience. You hear ex-players doing it. You hear media doing it. Let me just say this to you. The reason most managers come to clubs and do well, like Jurgen Klopp and Sir Alex and Wenger and others, and Mourinho from Porto, they don't have big club experience because they are exciting talent that big clubs go for. And what I mean by that is, Man United can't appoint Pep or Klopp because they're at big clubs and they're doing well. The only way you can recruit a manager that's got big club experience is if they failed and that big club doesn't want them anymore. I.e. Jose Mourinho sacked from Chelsea. I.e. Pochettino sacked from bloody PSG. The contradiction and ridiculous nature of this argument that Ten Hag hasn't got big club experience, so it's a risk. The only reason you'll get a manager with big club experience is because they're past it or they've been sacked. Because if they've got big club experience and they're doing well, that big club isn't going to let them go. Comprende? You know what I mean? It makes total sense to me. So I don't know what this nonsense is all about. And actually, can I just... I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do this now anyway because I think it's relevant at this point in time. There are other people out there that want to compare Tuchel to Pochettino. So I thought, let's have a look at what their comparison is. Tuchel's win rate at PSG was 75%. Poch's is 65%. Considering PSG should win every game, that is, there's a big difference there. In the Champions League, he was a runner-up. Pochettino has only ever taken them to a semi-final, but obviously got knocked out not even before the quarterfinals this time. Tuchel has won more things than Pochettino. He won 2 league titles, 1 Coupe de France, 1 Coupe de Ligue, and 2 Trophée de Champions, whatever that is. Whereas Pochettino's won 1 Coupe de France, 1 Trophée de Champions. So he's not even won a league title yet. He will win one, but as I say, the comparison to Tuchel and Pochettino and PSG is just bloody lazy because they're completely different with win rate and trophies won and how far they've been in the Champions League. What do you think about the tweet by Duncan Drasdo about Glazers have agreed to transfer the ownership into a trust owners by fans in perpetuity? What does that actually mean? I don't know, Gaurav. I've not seen it. Don't you think... I'll come back to that. Don't you think United are creating this Poch story to be the greatest heroes once they sign Erik Ten Hag, says Ernesto? No, I don't. I still think that they're considering Pochettino, and I'll tell you for why in a minute. A little follow-up on yesterday's idea of Bruno on the right. Bruno is unpredictable, granted. However, he lacks in terms of getting past the defender with a dribble. Would help Diego in the overlap, though, says Jacob. Yeah. The reason I would put Bruno on the right is not to take people on. He's got a good ball delivery, and he'd be very good with an overlapping fullback. Anita, welcome to the Members Club. So, look, Erik Ten Hag is the favourite, and let me just read you this. There will be second and final interviews. This is from the Telegraph last night. However, Ten Hag is clear favourite for the job. And there is a third candidate that people don't know at the moment. And also, from Ten Hag's interview last week, he said that he wants total control. He wants involvement in who they were going to recruit. What was your opinion of Neville, Keane and Carragher? Comments on that interview recently. Also going to the game tomorrow, praying for the win, says Thomas. Yeah, it feels weird having the game tomorrow, really, doesn't it? I mean, I woke up this morning, I was thinking about it, and I thought, it'd be nice to see Man United back playing again, but oh my God, they have wounded us this season. There's not a lot of love there for that team at the moment, I'll be honest. I mean, I love the club. I love the club. I love what Manchester United means to me. I don't love the way it's run, and I don't love the players who put the shirt on at the moment. There's a long way back, but as I said, there's a way to make that journey easier, and that is to have a clear, exciting plan, which for me is Erik Ten Hag. Have I missed anything, says Matty Ross? Probably quite a bit. If we end up getting Ten Hag, I'll weep a little. We need progression again, and it's a step in the right direction, says Wade. Hi Mark, love your channel from Australia. In your opinion, what's the likelihood that the new manager coming in would make a change to the captaincy? Also, when will you be on the overlap? They won't have me on the overlap. They'll never have me on the overlap. Bloody hell, God no. They're terrified of me. Gary Neville, Carragher, they were terrified of Goldbridge giving them a real question. Come on, let's be serious. That is a bit of a joke, but I think they probably are scared of having a conversation with me. And I know that sounds very arrogant, but I don't pull any punches. Not in a nasty way. will not sit there lapping it up like the rest of that audience going, oh. Anyway, let's move on. So, interesting updates from the Telegraph last night, and I think this was causing people some concern. PSG will not stand in the way of Pochettino coming to Manchester United. There will be no compensation fee, and they don't want permission from Poch to speak to Manchester United. Now, I find that, first of all, very massively worrying, but then on the other hand, I think there's positives in that if you want Erik ten Hag. First of all, the world will know that PSG basically want to get rid of Pochettino. It's like, please take him. We don't want any money, just take him. Just take him away from us. Which is not the best look for United, to be taking a manager that PSG are basically putting in the bin. It is that scenario, that analogy before, isn't it? PSG sat at the top table, they decide they don't want Pochettino anymore, they get their plate, they scrape it into the bin that is Manchester United. That will be the vision of that statement. If this is true, that PSG are saying we don't want him, take him off our hands, United are taking PSG sloppy seconds. The reality is that. I don't think that's a good look. I don't think that's a good look at all. I don't know how pro Pochettino people can say that that's a good look. Like, none of this nonsense about comparing to Tuchel, we've just blown that away and it's not relevant anyway. Twice sacked by Spurs, thrown away by PSG, and yet he's the man. It doesn't mean, I mean, look, forget Pochettino, the name. Just pretend it's any manager. It's not a good look, is it, to take a twice sacked manager and say, this is the man that's going to rebuild Man United from its lowest point ever in Premier League history. It is our lowest point in Premier League history. It's our lowest point in 30 years. Is it a good, if you're talking to your shareholders and you say, look, we know we're in a bad position, we know we're in the worst position we've been in the Premier League history, but this is the man to get us back. I know he was twice sacked by Spurs, thrown away by PSG, but this is the man. It doesn't even read right. And also, where's the similarity here? Oh, Mourinho's the man to take us back. What's his background? Well, he did win the Champions League before a couple of times, and he has won league titles, but what's his recent history? Sacked by Chelsea, players turned on him. Yeah, might be a problem here. What happened at United? Sacked by United, players turned on him. What you need is strong leadership. These players at Man United are weak. They listen to things like you listen to things. In their head, at the start, it'll be like, yeah, Poch, we love Poch. He used to pick up Luke Shaw, at Southampton. When things start going wrong, well, he got sacked at PSG for failing. He got sacked at Spurs for failing. You can't bring a manager into this setup with that history, because these players will throw a manager under the bus, purposely or indirectly. Psychologically, they will throw him under the bus the minute things go wrong, because they'll be like, well, it's not our fault. Look at what happened at PSG. He couldn't deal with it. Look at what happened at Spurs. At the end, he got sacked. You can't rebuild a club on a manager that's failed twice, because as soon things are going to go wrong at United, it will be mountains and valleys. There will be peaks and troughs, because that's what happens with a rebuild. We're starting from a deep position. There will be some drops, and when they happen, these players will go, well, look what I did at PSG, and it will just all fall apart again. It doesn't matter how they try and edit his split and Photoshop his CV. The reality is there is failure there, and PSG are chucking in towards us. What I would also say is, if it's true that PSG are trying to palm him off to us for free, and they don't care if he has an interview with us, which apparently he has had an interview this week, you've got to question PSG here and say, it doesn't really make much sense. PSG will win the league, and they will win the league in May. Why would PSG be letting Pochettino speak to us in March or April now? Why would they be open to us just having him for free? Because basically they don't want him. And that's just not a good look. So PSG are now panicking that their game of poker will bite them if we appoint someone else and they have to pay off Poch, says Glenn Chaplin. Yeah, possibly. Sheriff, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Appreciate it like that. And Julian says, seems like we're expecting Ten Hag. United Kev Brady says, I hope Ten Hag gets the job, but the Glazers giving him total control of transfers seems remote. If they do, then it truly is a new dawn at United, which is what we need. Joshua says, I don't think Poch is bad. I just think we've seen everything he's about. Ten Hag, on the other hand, even though he's older, has more growing room. I mean, I don't know why people are obsessed with his age. He's 52. Seems like we're expecting Ten Hag to come in and reset the culture and give us a new philosophy. Shouldn't that be Murtaugh's job, says Julian. I don't know why people are obsessed with age. I know we live in a world where Nagelsmann's about 20, but the reality is... how many years do you want out of Erik Ten Hag? If we get 5, I'd be happy. He'd still be only 57. If we get 10, I'd be over the moon. He'd still only be 62. If he gives us 15 years and then retires, he'll be 67. I mean, I don't know why his age is even relevant. Ultimately, I'm quite happy with his CV. The reality is, over the last 10 years, his CV's decent. He's been at Bayern Munich as a reserve coach, which I think, again, he's been in. I mean, it's massively disrespectful, this nonsense lie that he doesn't have the experience of working with a big club. Ajax are a big club. All right, the Dutch league isn't a big league, but there's still an expectation that you win every week and you win the league. There's still a pressure there. That is still a big club. On top of that, he was reserve coach at Bayern Munich for 2 years, and that is not the first team, but it's still working in and around a huge worldwide club for 2 years. I think this just always is coming down to complete and utter arrogance and basically stubbornness to research. All I ever hear from a lot of ex-players is they want Pochettino because, I spent a week with him 6 years ago, or he was on Sky and he's a top bloke. But, I mean, how's about spend some time with Ten Hag? Instead of going, why are we picking a manager from the Dutch league? Actually have a look at what he's all about. I think it's really, really, really poor how few big gob voices have actually researched Erik Ten Hag, because you know they are influential and United might listen to them. That's the scary thing. PSG would go for Ten Hag if we took Poch, says Wade. I don't actually think Ten Hag would go to PSG. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that. Sheriff says it must be April Fool's about Ronaldo being a manager candidate. Well, no comment. Maybe PSG will allow Poch to come to us as they want Ten Hag themselves, says Steve-O. I suppose I've got to talk about that now. I don't think Ten Hag would go to PSG. I know that sounds ridiculous because a lot of you, if you were a manager, would go to PSG. But PSG, it doesn't feel like... And I suppose that solidifies what I'm saying. There are a lot more similarities between Ajax and Manchester United than there are between PSG and Man United, or PSG and Ajax. PSG are like a Man City. They've got a lot of money, they've got a lot of wealth, and they're on a fast track to being success. Manchester United and Ajax, they're older clubs. They're more in tune with their youth. They're more in tune with their fans. They're more in tune with developing a style of play. But obviously PSG are more successful than Manchester United at the moment. So there's a pressure that PSG that's different to what it is at Manchester United or Ajax. And I actually don't think Ten Hag would want the PSG job. I might be wrong, but I think he would choose United over them. A football manager is not a surrogate father. I'd change the manager yearly if it yields more trophies than keeping one because it provides stability, says Andre. Yeah, and I think United have become obsessed with this. I think it's a great point by Andre. I think United have become obsessed with this, and I think some of our fans are obsessed with this. Chelsea change their manager every couple of years if they have to, and they've won numerous they have won a couple of Champions Leagues, but they've won numerous Premier League titles by doing that. Over the last 15 years, they'll change their manager. Man United seem to be obsessed with a long-term coach with United DNA. And I think they're just... I think what the club has done is it's become obsessed with the success of Sir Alex Ferguson, which is now 10 years old. It was a different world then. Football has moved on massively from 2013. Style of play, clubs, structure. People basically have two teams now. The benches are a lot stronger than when Sir Alex was around. But United is still obsessed with getting a manager in that's going to be here for 15 years. And I don't think you need to do that. Just get the right manager in for now. Somebody said it yesterday. If we get Ten Hag in and he fails, and Pochettino is a good manager again in 2 years, give him the job. I'm not saying never get Pochettino. I'm just saying please don't get him now. Give Ten Hag the job first, and then if he doesn't do well and Pochettino's got himself sorted again at another club, let's have him back. Because Pochettino ain't going to Liverpool or Man City. He's going to go to Spurs, or he's going to go to Valencia or something like that. And if he can get himself back, then give him the job in 2 or 3 years if Ten Hag fails. I mean, the reality is it's not about never get Poch. It's just don't get him now. Get Ten Hag now. Give him a chance. And if he doesn't work, move him on. I don't want any manager to be coming into this job with the board saying, no matter what happens, you've got 3 years. If it goes, I completely agree with sacking Moyes after 9 months. I don't know. I've heard people over the last few years say, "Oh, Moyes was really unlucky." I think that's one of the best decisions United made. They didn't even give him a season. It was very obvious he was awful, and they sacked him, and that was absolutely spot on. I've got no problem with ruthlessness. Maybe we weren't ruthless enough when it came to Ollie. Maybe he should have been gone a lot sooner than he was. But I think if you know football, you can see a problem. And one thing I've always said as well is with managers, when it goes wrong, name me a manager who gets it right. And what I mean is, when the calls for sacking start, how many managers ride through that and come out the other end? Sir Alex, I think in the late 80s, I mean, I was a kid, I don't remember it, but I think there were people saying time to go, Sir Alex, and stuff. It wasn't Sir Alex then. But in the main, I'd say over 90%, maybe even 95% of the time, when the fans start saying sack the manager, there's very few managers that come back from that. But our club seems to hear the sack the manager and carry on for another year. You've got to be more ruthless, yeah. What do you think about the reports around Kamara from Marseille having agreed to move to Manchester United and that we are close to buying Anthony? Have you heard anything, says Arjun? Well, Fabrizio was on the show on Monday and he said Man United were offered Kamara in January and said no, and they're still saying no at the moment. So it's very interesting that a story's come out, I think it's from Italy, saying that Manchester United have agreed a deal with Kamara because, I mean, Fabrizio was on the show on Monday and said that there's nothing going on with Kamara. So I would say there's nothing going on with Kamara based on the source that's saying it is compared to what we heard. I spent 1 week with Nakamoto as a new coach, says Skive. And Mark, could you do a Ronaldo versus Poch poll? Yeah, I think people would go for Ronaldo. Let's be honest, Spurs never deserved to be in the Champions League final. They scraped through in the group stage, got through a crap Dortmund side, got away on away goals against Ajax and City and lost the final, says Viraj. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't want to dismiss what Spurs did. I wanted them to win that Champions League final. It was against Liverpool, so I desperately wanted them to win. And I was happy for them to be in that final. I was happy for Pochettino to be in that final as well. But you've just made me think, I never realised. Did they beat Ajax on away goals? So not only was it a late goal, it was away goals that put them through as well. I never even knew that. And people actually say it with their chest. Wow, Poch beat Ten Hag. I mean, fucking hell. It was a last minute. It was literally a smash and grab at the end. But was it on away goals? Oh my god, I didn't even know. I thought they'd won it outright, like 4-3 on away goals, not 4-3 normal. I didn't think they did it on away goals. If it was on away goals, I mean, come on, it's hardly. Oh, he sat him down. Anyway. Couple of stories to come in as well. Romano saying that Erik Ten Hag wants control of transfers, and he made that out. He said that in his interview, which I think is a positive. Whether it will mean he gets the job, I don't know. And also from Fabrizio Romano, Darwin Núñez has been scouted and is being scouted by Manchester United. So yeah, it was 3-2 to Spurs. It wasn't on away goals against Ajax. I thought it was away goals against Man City. It wasn't away goals against Ajax. I didn't think it was. So anyway, it was a late goal, as I said. But Darwin Núñez, according to Fabrizio Romano, is being scouted by Manchester United. I'll take that. I think the fact that we are scouting him is a positive. Whether we can get him or not, I think it's going to be very difficult. Obviously, Benfica striker, 22, Uruguayan. He's got a lot of strings to his bow. I think he's got the potential to go on and be a fantastic striker. But I must say, I can see him at Atletico Madrid. For some reason, I just see him at Atletico Madrid. I don't see him at Manchester United or Arsenal. I see him at Atletico Madrid. But I'd love him. I'd love him at Manchester United. I think he's exactly the sort of striker we should go for. And I think him with Ronaldo for a year would be great for his development, and the pressure would be off him to a certain extent in his first year as he gets used to Premier League football. So I would love to see Darwin Núñez coming to Manchester United. I think he's exactly the sort of signing that we should be keeping an eye on. The Glazers should do the right thing and sign Mbappe for us, says Paul D. I'm just going to have a quick check here because somebody said there was a bit of an update on something, so I just want to check it. One update we do have, remember yesterday, I mean, I don't really like talking about this. What's this? Oh, you know this Duncan Drasdo thing? The Glazer family have agreed to transfer ownership of Manchester United into a trust owned by fans. It's clearly April Fool's. I didn't fall for it until I read the tweet. Then I didn't fall for it, but it's not yet. Don't take any notice of that. But yeah, yesterday Mason Greenwood. Some people were mentioning Mason Greenwood being on the website for Manchester United, and are they trying to feed him back into the team? And I said, look, I don't really want to talk about it. He's part of a police investigation, and it will upset a lot of people if we start talking about him coming back, because a lot of people don't want him playing football, let alone for Manchester United, which I understand. It's a very sensitive topic. But Manchester United very quickly came out yesterday at lunchtime. Well, they didn't come out officially, but Simon Stone, who's basically a BBC journalist who's got very good sources within the club, came out and said Manchester United's position on Mason Greenwood has not changed. He's not training with the team, and he's not going to be involved with the team for the foreseeable future, which has been the case for the last 2 months. So anybody who's thinking Mason Greenwood's getting back into Manchester United's team, I'd say we're a very long way away from that. Ten Hag has a system and finds that layers to suit that system. Poch decides his system to suit the players that he has, which is dangerous with this squad, says Jack. I re-watched Ajax v Spurs. Spurs were much better in my opinion, says D3. Well, mate, it doesn't really matter because it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, wasn't it? If we get Poch, I'm supporting Luton Town next season, says Josh. As I said, Josh, look, Man United can do what they want because they're in charge, but they won't get an easy ride if they appoint Pochettino. They just won't. You know the fan base. You know what it's like. It doesn't matter what I think or what you think. If they appoint Pochettino, the vast majority don't want him, and it won't be great. It won't be great. You can tell. If Pochettino was coming into it, if this situation was different, somebody said to me yesterday, is there a scenario where United appoint Pochettino and it goes okay? And I said, well, I don't think it is. I don't think there is, but it would be better if he was. Imagine Sir Alex Ferguson was retiring again. We've just won the league. Everyone wants Ten Hag, and they go with Pochettino. I think in that scenario, people would be like, well, we've won the league. There's positivity around the club. I don't really want this manager, but let's see what he can do. You'd be appointing a manager that nobody really wants to a team that nobody really likes. It's not a good mix. And I know Gary Neville was saying, well, the club will appoint Ten Hag because they get swayed by opinion, and opinion is Ten Hag. But I think that's just I think that's almost sour grapes from Gary, because he runs businesses, and sometimes a business has to be about positivity. And there is a Man United team at the moment that most fans don't like. Like a lot of fans do not like that set of players. There are players that we do like, but as a collective, a lot of the fans don't like and trust the players. If you then appoint a manager to manage those players that people don't want, that's a double negative. So we've got a manager we don't want with players we don't like. But if you appoint the manager that the fans want, Erik Ten Hag, his positivity will feed onto those players, because people will go, he'll sort those out. They'll be better under him. And there's a positive vibe. Whereas Pochettino brings a negative vibe, even though it's probably not his fault. There will be a negative vibe with the negativity of the team and the negativity of Pochettino absorbing each other. Whereas the positivity of Ten Hag can therefore influence positivity onto the team. And I think the club does have to think about things like that, because ultimately the club's in a bad position, and forget the managerial conversation for the moment. The club is in a bad position. We're in the worst position, I think, in my lifetime. I don't really remember the late 80s that well because I was quite young, but I do remember. I remember us not winning the title to Leeds. I remember winning the title the following year. I remember not winning the title against Blackburn and that horrible game at West Ham on the last game of the season. I remember 98 where Arsenal won the double, and then I remember the next year as winning the treble. I remember all these ups and downs, but none of the downs, even the downs of David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I don't think anything's as bad as where it is now. We have got a very, very expensively assembled squad that doesn't fit together at all. Man United remind me of the world's most. You've bought the world's 10 most expensive jigsaws, thrown most of the bits in the bin, and just mixed it all up together. It doesn't fit, and it's an expensively assembled squad. We're almost at the peak. We're almost. I feel that we're at a tipping point. If we get, I think we're at a tipping point. Welcome to the Members Club, EJ, and welcome to the Members Club, Javier G. Thanks everyone who becomes a member, by the way. You can do that by clicking the join button. We've got some exciting Members Club content which will be exclusive to you coming up over the next couple of weeks, actually. I'm really excited about that. But anyway, back on what I was saying. I think we're at the tipping point with Manchester United now. I feel that since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, we've almost... it's a bit like a pile of horse crap. You know, like if you've ever been to a horse yard... A lot of people who keep horses, they'll clean the stable out where the horses are, or they'll pick the crap up off the field, they'll put it in a wheelbarrow, and they'll have a muck heap, basically, where they pile it all up. And then I don't know why it gets piled up. I don't know whether someone comes and buys it for gardens or something, but they'll pile up all the horse shit until it's big enough to get cleared out. And I think United have done that since Sir Alex retired. 1.3 billion pounds we've spent, 4 managers, hardly any trophies, no title runs. We've basically just accumulated this big pile of crap. And I think we're at a tipping point now, whereby are we going to clear that crap and start a new pile, which hopefully won't have any on it, or are we going to keep piling it on? And I feel that that's where United are now. We're at a tipping point. You're almost at the peak of the crap. All your expenditure, all your recruitments, all your managerial appointments, all your mistakes. This has to be This has to be it, because we're at our lowest ebb as a club. We have we're coming up for 6 years without a title, without a trophy, because it will be 6 years. I know it's not even 5 yet, but it will be 6 because we're not winning a trophy before May, which means the next one we can win is February in the Carabao Cup. So we're going to go at least 5.5 years without a trophy. And if we don't win a trophy next year, it's going to be at least 6.5. So that's our worst record since the 70s. We're probably not going to get top 4, and next year we might not get top 4. So everything looks really bad for United at the moment, and they've got to make this decision, and they've got to make it right. And one of the big issues I have, and I think many other people have with Pochettino, is that it feels like Mourinho. Let's recruit a manager that was good, who's just been sacked by a big club. Twice sacked in Pochettino's case. Let's not forget Poch chose to start Kane over Moura, which actually was like throwing away the Champions League to favouritism. Proof in the pudding, says Arch. I mean, look, you can overanalyse anything. I'm not proposing to... I know what you're talking about. Harry Kane wasn't fit for the Champions League final and he picked him. And it was crap. Mark, if offered, would you go on the overlap? Would love to see you on there, says El Nasser. I don't know. I don't actually like the format of I've said this before. I don't mind, you get some good sound bites out of it, but I don't think it does a lot for fans. I don't think it's good for fans to be sat in the audience. Can I have a question, Gary? I don't like that, but that's because I think what we've built as a community is a voice. And whether people like that voice or not, fans now have a big voice. If we didn't exist and we weren't here talking about Erik ten Hag, where would the noise for Erik ten Hag be coming from? And... you know, I love what fans have achieved in general in football over the last 5 years, because you've now got Gary Neville on the overlap saying, I want Poch, but I was stunned when I did a poll and 90% of fans want Ten Hag. I was stunned. Well, he wouldn't be sat there saying that if it wasn't for you. If it wasn't for things like what we do collectively, because he would be sat there going, well, Poch is the best man. I spent a week with him and yeah, he's the right man for United. But he has to mention the fact that the fans don't want him. So... I just think that sitting there in the audience asking for a question with somebody who's not a player anymore, so they're not a legend anymore, they don't play football anymore, they're just someone with an opinion. For me, I'd rather sit on the same stage, but people will say, well, that's just arrogant. But I'm confident that our opinions as fans can hold sway with them. As I said, Premier League experience, what does that mean? You trained with him for a week 6 years ago. What does that mean? What do you know about Erik ten Hag? These are the questions that need to be asked. And you don't get to ask those questions if it's just like, what do you think of Ten Hag? Can I come back? No, you've had your question. Good morning, Mark Powell. Love your work. Big up, says Luke82. Thanks very much. And Gaza, thanks for becoming a member. Of course. If I had a question for Gary Neville, I'd go, Sunshine Gary Neville. What time do you get up, Gary? Does Phil get up before you? No, I wouldn't do that. Bot says, actually, that's arrogance. But you get asked a question and you give an honest answer and it's arrogant. It's not arrogant. I don't see myself as me. I see myself as all of you. I don't see myself as the Mark Goldbridge channel. I've got that. Got a new video coming out at midday talking about Will Smith and Harry Maguire. But the United Stand has always been about trying to establish what you as a community are talking about and talk about those themes. I'll always give you my opinion, but I think the success of the channel and the community is that we try to talk about. If this was just about me and I went, you know what, this morning I really want to talk about David Beckham's hairdo and how I had it in the late 90s, would people be interested in that? No, we're trying to provide a community where big topics are discussed openly and honestly. I'm not so sure with mainstream media you get that. And that's always been what I've been opposed to. I wouldn't be quick to get an opinion on who Neville thinks should be manager from how well his managerial career went, says Barry. Well, no, I like Gary Neville. I like Gary Neville. I like Roy Keane. I like Paul Scholes. But I don't have to agree with everything they say. I think that's very dangerous. And ultimately what I would say is all of those people wanted Solskjaer to stay, and all of those people were very wrong. We don't need to look at their managerial careers. We don't need to look at other things they've got wrong, because there'll be things they've got right. For me, the big warning sign with all these ex-players is they never really said anything about Ollie, and they were like, let's stick with him. And that's the most recent mistake they've made, and it was about a manager, and it was about a United manager, and it was very, very wrong. So when they talk about, oh, let's go and get Poch, I'm like, I ain't listening to you, because 3 or 4 months ago you were saying keep Ollie, and that was the biggest mistake United ever made, keeping him for even 3 weeks longer than they did. Today is the best day for United to announce Poch and see backlash afterwards. They can say April Fool, says Jay. Less than 20% of Premier League managers had prior Premier League experience. That means that Premier League counts for nothing. Red experience. You're right, Red. Harry Maguire and Will Smith are really similar. Both hit people, says Arjun. Well, look, that's coming out on my channel, Mark Goldbridge, at midday. One thing I do want to say, if you're interested, I do need your support today. It's a massive day for my FIFA career mode. TUSFC could be the last episode, could be the last dance. Final day of the Premier League. We're 2 points off the top, but we're in third place. But the teams above us have both got difficult games. So final day, outside chance of the Premier League. But after that, Champions League final. We're in the Champions League final against Atletico Madrid. It's going to be epic. There's going to be a suit on. So if you're looking for a little bit of light entertainment at about 3:30 today, ahead of the World Cup draw at 5, which I'll be doing on That's Football, tune into my Twitch channel at 3:30, Goldbridge TV. I'll be tweeting it out off at Mark Goldbridge. But before that, we will have the press conference reaction from Ralph Rangnick. Yes, we've got a press conference. And will he be asked about the managerial situation? We'll have to wait and see. And of course, 8 o'clock tonight on United Stand. So we've got Ralph Rangnick press conference. I think it's around sort of 1:30. We've got the Champions League TUSFC final on Twitch. We've got the World Cup draw at 5. TUSFC at 3:30. And then 8 o'clock tonight. Busy day. Lots and lots to get on with. Thanks everyone for watching. Cracking topics as usual. And of course, Cristiano Ronaldo is not being interviewed for player manager. It was an April Fool if you hadn't figured it out. Getting Poch is going to be like getting a former world-class player at the end of his career, while getting Ten Hag is like getting a player that has potential to be world-class, says Jack. Yeah, I think what I would say is, if you want an analogy about that, Jack, because I think you're absolutely spot on, I think Pochettino's like getting Schweinsteiger and Ten Hag's like getting Bruno. This community and channel is the best out there. We all agree to disagree, which is right, but we are together, and we have to thank Mark for all his time and effort in building this channel, says Adam B72. Well, that's very nice of you, Adam, but as I've said before, everything we achieve, everything we do is because of you. I mean, I'd be talking to no one if you didn't watch. So, you know, let's share that community feel. Hypothetically, would you transfer Ronaldo / Bruno or Kane Son? Anita. Would I swap Kane and Son for Bruno and Ronaldo? No. No, I wouldn't. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. I'll speak to you a little bit later. Busy day to come, and hopefully I'll see you on some of our content that we've got for you. Speak to you in a bit.